What's up guys, Joel Valley from Media Glitch here, and today I'm going to review the Quarry. Now I know I'm a little late in the game, have had a lot of video games to review, but I want to let you know what's the good, what's the bad of this game, so let's get into it. But before we get too far in this review, let me know in the comment section down below, are you a horror fan? And if you are, what are your favorite horror movies? Now when I was streaming this, you can see a full stream of this game on my Twitch channel. When I was streaming it, we were doing horror trivia. It was really fun, so you might want to go check that out. So what is the Quarry? Well, it basically feels like an interactive film, and the choices that you make will determine how the story plays out. The atmosphere and the story take you back to all those 80s slasher movies like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, Sleepaway Camp, which is one of my favorites, and it's got a lot of hidden Easter eggs in it. For example, one scene has a chainsaw, it says groovy on it, just, you know, Ash's famous line from The Evil Dead, and you even cut off someone's arm, which is kind of cool. There's also like the car graveyard from Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors. So if you're a horror fan, there's a lot to love here, a lot of little Easter eggs, little nods to the genre that you're going to love. You play as 7 different camp counselors who decide to hang out one more night after summer camp is over. Now, I've been a camp counselor and I would never stay another day there after a camp was going. I don't care how much beer there is to drink, how hot the girl is, it doesn't matter. I'm done. But they decided to go this way anyway. And actually, let's just get into the review with the story. Like I said, 7 counselors partying at a camp, and horror ensues. I really can't say much more about the story because I don't want to spoil it. But the cool thing is that everyone is going to have a different playthrough based on the decisions you make. So let's look at the story. Let's look at what's good about it. The good of the story is you have some really good actors in here. David Arquette from Scream, Lance Hendrickson from Alien, Ethan Suplee is from My Name is Earl, the girl from Modern Family, Lynn Shay, who's from every single horror movie ever made, just about. I'm just kidding, but she's even in The Grudge, which I really love. Sadly, it didn't end well for her in that movie. It doesn't end well for her in The Quarry either, but I won't spoil it because it's epic. You also have Ted Raimi from, well, every Sam Raimi movie. I'm just messing with you. He didn't piggyback off the success of his brother. He's actually a pretty good actor. In fact, one of the best lines in this game comes from him.
Does this look like the goddamn Harbinger Motel to you?
Weird thing though, he's also in The Grudge as well. Speaking of The Grudge, one other actor that was in that as well is in here, Grace Zabriskie, who by far, I mean, hands down, gives the best performance of this game. I'm truly captivated every time she's on the screen. So
there's no need to worry. I'm here to help you. Think of me as your guide into the unknown. It's exciting, yes.
They have a good cast, and the story is pretty well written. I found myself often laughing at some of the jokes that these guys were saying.
We need your help. There is a swarm of bears, and they are everywhere, and there's these hunters too, and they seem to be shooting at the bears, but also at us. We don't know what to do, so please come help us. SOS. This is an emergency. Save our ship. Come on down. Please help us.
And depending on what path you choose, you can see different sides or characteristics of each counselor. Like if you choose one path, you don't see much of Ariel Winter's character, but if you choose another path, you get to watch her smash a squirrel to death. So like stuff like that's pretty cool. Another good thing, but it's also a bad thing, is the character development. The first act of this adventure, or like the game calls it, like the prologue and chapters 1 and chapter 2 are pretty slow, and they take their time setting up the story and developing the characters. This turns out to be a good thing because you care more or you hate more, depending on the choices, about the characters you're playing. So it adds a little more weight for them when they get killed or when you're trying to save them, which is a good thing. So another great thing about this story is where it can go if you're making the right choices. A ton of people won't even see these scenes if they don't make the right choices.
What? What'd you say? Where? Where'd you see it?
Hey, let him go!
At the cabins earlier tonight.
So how do you even know where he is? How the hell are we gonna find him just driving down the middle of the road?
Kinda wish I hadn't. Sam,
There's a ton of different scenes, of different scenarios, and which makes great for replayability. So that's what's cool about this story is there's a lot of ways it can go, a lot of different cutscenes you're going to be able to see, and the replayability is going to be great. Let's look at the bad about the story. So like I said, those first 3 chapters can be kind of slow, which would make people hesitant to go back and replay it to try to do better. And sometimes if you do it wrong, the ending seems so quickly. You know, it all depends on the decisions you make, but it seems like you die and it's just like boom, 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 and it's over. So all that character development that we spent, all that time we spent wasn't worth it. Or you never get to see some of the other cutscenes, which is kind of sad. So maybe you have the people doing things so that it doesn't drag. More things to do before you get to the story or while you're doing the story. There's so many parts where you could have done things, I feel like. The other bad thing is some of the dialogue feels a little juvenile. Even for high schoolers, it felt a little juvenile, but for the most part, the dialogue was really good.
Have you thought about, you know, not killing him?
I'm thinking about not killing you.
What? Just to stay inside tonight. He wanted us safe.
I don't care what you think.
I don't care what you think.
Shut up. Fine, do whatever you want.
All right, let's move on to graphics. These graphics are amazing. Oh my gosh, they did such an amazing job. And my full-time job is a film director, so I kind of have to review this as a movie. And so when I look at this, all the shots are well thought out. They got everything from the vertical zooms to the killer POV shots. Everything here looks great. It's very cinematic. The DP did a great job lighting each scene, making you feel like that atmosphere, like you're there, and it's spooky, it's creepy. I love everything. There were even shots where the graphics look so good. I had to do a double take and be like, am I watching a real film? It looks so good. They just did an outstanding job here. I mean, look at this crow. And like I said earlier, the fortune teller in this game was the highlight for me. Graphically, the way she acted, everything. The whole scene was so well lit. The graphics are amazing. And then you put her acting on top, and you really feel like you're looking at something special. And man, just so awesome. So good, so good. Now the bad. So this company has been doing great with their motion capture, all the games that came before it. They're only getting better, but there is still some room for improvement. I saw it mainly with the mouse and the hair. Gosh, I can't remember her name right now, but every time she was on the screen, it just didn't look right for me. And so there were other times when, the same girl, the cell phone, the light sometimes was on, sometimes it wasn't, sometimes the blood looked weird. There were just some things that I thought can be improved on. And since I'm reviewing this like a movie, I feel like there were some things that just took me out. Like the guy who busts out of his skin, I'm just going to say that. And then he jumps out the window. It's very emotional. And then all of a sudden the scene cuts to like a wide outside. And it really takes you out of what's going on there. And so I think there's some improvement as far as a filmmaking aspect, or in that respect. I feel like there's better ways to tell the story and not let your audience get taken out of it. There were also times where, you're walking in the game and then all of a sudden the cutscene appears and it's like you were running and you're out of breath, and it didn't make any sense for me. So I think they could have fixed some of those. But all in all, the graphics are outstanding for this. The sound. So I have only good things to say. I don't even have a bad thing about the sound. I felt like the sound design is where this thing shines a lot, because all the blood, all the growls, all the hits, everything sounded real, sounded great. Loved it. Moving on.
Yes, fucking do it! Just fucking do it!
All right, let's talk about the music. They're good. So the music here, amazing. I have no complaints. It's so good. The music really brings you back to Charles Bernstein's score of Nightmare on Elm Street. I got that vibe so much playing this game. really helps you feel like you're in this interactive movie, right? And there are 2 modes that they use so you can stream and not get a copyright strike, which is the mode I used. And so if you don't want to get copyright strike, you use this mode apparently. And so let's move on to the bad. I still got a copyright strike. Oh my goodness. Okay, even though I used their setting, it still didn't work. Also something to mention, you'd be in a scene, right? Sometimes they put weird music choices in here. So I remember like in chapter 4, I believe, something happens and we move on to the next chapter, but the music really pulled me out of that scene. And I didn't feel like it was very 80s horror inspired. And so there were some interesting choices, but it's their game. You know, they do what they want. All right, that takes us to gameplay, the good. Well, the good is there's not very much gameplay here, and so you might press your button to hold your breath sometimes. That's a direction to make a choice, or a direction up or down to catch something. Other than that, there's not much like gameplay here, right? So, but when it's there, it works fine. The bad, since the story takes so long to get going, I feel like they need to give you more things to do, right? And so I think just adding more things to do throughout the whole game would heighten the experience. For example, like when you cut someone's arm off, right, and they get a bandage, instead of just cutting and he's bandaged, why not let us bandage him? Why not let us stop the bleeding? Let the audience do that. Maybe put a timer on there, because I feel like that would really, really raise attention. And even if you messed it up and he died, that'd be cool right there, I think. So the other thing I would say is put a run button in there. Again, going back to how slow those first 3 chapters are, that would really help replayability if you could just run and get to where you gotta go, right? And I think that would make the first 3 chapters a lot more enjoyable for replay value. Also, sometimes a cutscene would happen, and then when you came back from it, it would put you in the wrong direction, and so you'd backtrack a little bit. So that was one thing I noticed. The other thing was multiplayer. When I first got it, wasn't even an option, which I from what I remember, that was supposed to be an option at launch. Then they did add it, but unfortunately, I would have to start my whole game over just to do the multiplayer. So I never really got to test it because I didn't want to start my first run through it over again. So that being said, the controls are good for what they are. I really feel like they could add more and make it more interactive in the future. So what is my final verdict? Should you buy this? Shouldn't you buy this? Well, I think it's a great game for people who love these types of stories, right? Story-driven games. Like myself, I do. I had a good time playing it. I played it multiple times. Sometimes the first 3 chapters felt like a chore, but when I got better endings, it felt worth it, right? So it's a weird balance, right? I had a good time, and I'm a lover of films. If you're a lover of films, I think you would like this. If you're a person who cries about all the quick time events in like Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6 or games like that, this game isn't for you. I think horror fans will like it. Hopefully there's enough blood in there for them, because depending on the route, you might not see very much. And so it really depends. It really depends. That's hard to say, but I do look forward to seeing what this company brings to us in the future. If you're still unsure after this review if you should buy it, I think maybe waiting for it to go on sale, then wait for it. Even I think the $69 price tag on a PS5 seems very, like, it seems steep for a game that you could probably potentially finish in like 10 hours. But if you like these kinds of games, the replayability is there. There's a lot more to do, a lot more to unlock and see. So yeah, it's kind of up in the air depending on what kind of games you like. So that is my review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.